schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Good afternoon. Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press, 106 on FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Hope you are enjoying your Wednesday, halfway through the week, for your kickoff time here on 106 on FM, 1390 AM, and 106onthefan.com. Streaming, however, and wherever you are joining us, we appreciate you for doing so. Got some good news today from the NBA as they continue to shoot for a resume to play basketball July 31st in Orlando, Florida. And working on a calendar in regards to the playoffs with a 22-team format, which could make things really interesting. A 22-team format. Baseball's still in an absolute mess as they can't figure things out due to financial bugaboos, if you want to call it that. Just issues of can we, as players, they want to get paid. As a league, they don't have the money to pay the players what they want. A 100-game schedule proposal from the MLB wasn't going to work. A 50-game schedule isn't going to work. So what do you do? How do you fix this issue? And from a baseball fan standpoint, in fact, if you're a baseball fan, I'd love to hear from you at 435-339-0321. 435-339-0321. That's how you can text in. If you want to call in, it's 435-752-1069. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, do you really want to see baseball at this point? Or are you just like, hey, we're so deep into this, I mean, not deep into the summer, I should say, but we're getting to the, we're 5 weeks away from All-Star break? 5 weeks away from All-Star break. Does baseball even matter? I mean, do we even care at this point? I think that becomes a question. So we'll get into that a little bit. I've got some other stories hanging around on the sports thread, and we'll talk about those. That can be a good look. Are we on air, Eric? Please say we're on, dude.
There, my microphone's on now.
I just want to make sure you're ready to go, because my gosh, I know you. Out there,
Well, the sign wasn't on outside. Usually when our mics are on, the sign says on air. Don't come in here, basically.
It doesn't matter if people still come in, whether it's on or not. It really doesn't matter at this point.
And somebody come in yesterday when I'm in here alone talking to you.
Shut up.
Trying to give me something. I'm like, I'm on the air. I'm talking with Ajay right now.
I remember doing a Bees game with Tony Parks, and we were having some technical issues. And someone comes like, oh, Tony. And you could hear him over the Tony, I've got a great joke for you. And Tony's like, not freaking now. He's like, come on, pick. And I'm kind of editing and filtering out what he said. But it's like, pick a time, man. Come on. We're trying to get on air for a baseball game. He was so upset. It was funny just to hear him go off. So, yeah. Time and place, everybody, to interrupt on-air hosts. Eric, by the way, what is your partner in crime doing here today? Yeah, I mean, am I getting? I mean, if I'm going to replace, fine, but just give me a week notice, a 2-week notice. Actually.
Well, since you didn't come in yesterday, I thought maybe that was your notice.
Oh, sweet. So I'm free, huh? The listeners are free. They are free from having to hear from me. They are absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled.
Now, did you eventually find your way home last night, or did you just have to hunker down for the night over in Bear Lake?
So in fact, we were told the canyon was going to open up at 8 because I was getting texts from you too. So I was texting you and then another individual, and they're like, yeah, I should open up. I'm like, okay, cool. So 8 o'clock, we drive up, and the cop's still sitting there. And I'm dumb enough to be like, why are the cops there? Maybe, and he has some cones around it too, around his truck, but he's covering up the right lane. So I go right around it. And the cop gets out of his truck, and I'm like, shoot. And I put it in park, and he goes, and I thought he said, how are you doing? And I was like, good. And he goes, no. I said, what are you doing? Going home? And he's like, oh, yeah? How you going to do that? And I was like, oh, the canyon's still closed. And he goes, what do you think I'm doing here? And I was like, and I just wanted to shoot back and be snarky because I just wasn't in the freaking mood yesterday. But I didn't. I said, I apologize. And he's like, you need to turn around. And I'm like, well, no crap, Sherlock. So I turned around, went back down the hill, went through Montpelier. I got home about 11, and went back to Bear Lake at about 8 this morning, and then I'm here now. So it's I am running low on fumes, to say the least, right now. I'm very low on fumes, but we're good. What in the heck was that conversation in the cubicle today?
What? What do you mean what conversation?
I'm sitting there
what
talking
are you talking about?
Shania, and you come over. Oh, hey, Ajay. Hey, Eric. I had a dream about you.
Oh, yes, that.
Your daughter's like, what the fetch? And I was like, Eric, time and place. Time and place. We tell these stories on air, not off air.
It was a really weird dream.
I gotta hear this.
You were crying.
Okay, why was
you
I
were
crying?
It's like you were at a mailbox. You were standing with like your hands on a mailbox. I don't know if you were like zip tied to it or handcuffed or just tied down. I don't know. But you were like in place and you were crying. Like somebody strapped you down there and you were stuck. And you were crying. I felt bad. I'm like, who did this? What's going on here? Some guys thought they were playing a prank on you. I'm like, no, that's not cool. That's all I remember from the dream. I don't remember if I came and saved you or if I joined in the revelry.
So here, let me finish off your dream. You didn't save me. You said, how come you didn't tie him with tighter little zip ties?
No.
Let me help you. And then you put a postage stamp on my head with an address. I'm pretty sure that's how your dream finished up.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah,
I remember feeling really bad, and I remember calling him out.
I don't know what's more weird. The dream of the fact that we're like in the middle of this like lobby area, and you're like, I had a dream about you. That's great, Eric.
And you were crying.
Let's have a private and you're like, you're crying. Can we have that conversation in a private time, Eric? Like maybe on air.
Just you and I here in the room.
Hey, Eric, let's get to some sports news. Let's get to some sportsing. It looks like the NBA has had a proposed date for Game 7, if there is a Game 7 of the NBA Finals, for October 12th.
Isn't that nuts?
It's an NBA model of a 22-team format for the season's proposed resumption, which will begin July 31st in Orlando, and it's the last possible date for a Finals Game 7, again, on October 12th. That is crazy to me. So here's my first question. Does that push back? How far does it push back next season, you think?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great question. I mean, normally your NBA regular season is done by mid-June, early to mid-June. And then you have your draft, and then you have free agency, and you maybe have your summer leagues. But really your veteran camp, that's what, 3-4 weeks before the regular season starts?
Yeah.
And the regular season usually starts around Halloween, first part of November.
Yep, usually last week of October, first week of November. So with the draft, the lottery...
So it's usually 4 or 5 months of an off season.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do a 4 or 5 month off season, even if you're going to start in December.
So do you really... I mean, does it become realistic that the NBA season starts on Christmas Day?
Probably. I think that's what they're going to try to shoot for. But honestly, that just seems silly to me, to be playing games still into the middle of October. Shorten the first round to a best of 5, maybe even the second round in best of 5. Do your conference finals and your NBA finals as a best of 7. Just get the games done. Because I just don't get that. It looks like they're moving more and more towards 22-team resumption of play. But who those teams are, what that resumption of play looks like, those 16 teams. In fact, I think we've got some audio from Adrian Wojnarowski. Since we don't do any show prep anymore, we do it while we're doing the show.
We do show prep. We just do it away from each other. Or when we're actually here.
Yeah. So in our cut sheet there, I think there's a couple different comments. There's one from Adrian Wojnarowski and one from Brian Windhorst. But if I'm not mistaken, the one from Woj talks about this 22-team resumption of play. And
Look at me. I had it loaded up for you.
And he seems to indicate which teams might make it and which teams might not.
They have zeroed in on a 22-team format, likely the 16 teams that are in the playoff, 1 through 8 in both conferences right now, and then 6 more teams, likely 5 in the Western Conference, 1 in the East, Washington. And still the details of what that's going to look like is going to be presented to the owners, what the structure and format is.
If you're the Charlotte Hornets, you're a game and a half behind Washington. Why do you get left out? But at the same time, you got to have a cutoff somewhere. Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and even Phoenix all have more wins than Washington.
Here's Brian Windhorst on what this return format could do financially for the NBA.
If they wipe out the whole rest of the regular season and advance to the playoffs, it would cost them 259 games of game checks, and their salaries that are getting docked 25% until November would get docked 40%. By putting in a 22-team tournament, and how they come up with 22 teams, again, they just built a box and put it in to get 88 games. They're going to be able to potentially knock that down to only 10% give back. And that matters now, and it's going to matter, like I said, when they do that next deal that he's got to push through.
With that, if I may add one more thing, here's Woj again on that small market teams. They want to participate.
In the short term, they want to go play. The longer term, the idea of your season ending in March and not starting again, playing another NBA game until likely late December, that big of a gap really worries organizations, especially those rebuilding with young players who they can't have around their facilities.
Is it just me, or am I the only one who thinks that I've never thought of Atlanta as a small market team?
Oh, I have.
Atlanta's a big city. It's a big metro.
Market-wise, they don't produce what Orlando does. They don't produce what Dallas does. They don't produce what even Chicago does.
Well, Chicago's major market. They're the number 3, number 2 size market in America.
They don't produce that kind of revenue. Now, I have a friend who tells me, in fact, let me ask you this. It almost seems like I'm sidestepping this conversation, but I'm not, because there's a link to it. But how much does China at all have a grip on if the NBA starts or not?
China?
Yeah. I know. You're giving me the look and the tone of voice. Like, what in the name are you doing, man?
Did I hear you right?
Yeah. Because it's been said, and there are articles that state, that China has a grip on the NBA, and they'll tell them when and if they can start. Like, hey, when things get approved, right? All that, hey, we want the NBA back. Because it's a financial success for us in China. For whatever reason. Sales and such.
Okay.
Do you think Adam Silver is the mouthpiece for China?
Okay, so I hear the question. I've seen it posed, I think, in our texts before.
Oh, okay.
If China was running the NBA, Daryl Morey would not have a job today. That's all you need to know. If China truly was running the NBA, Daryl Morey would not have a job to this day. It's been a big financial hit, it's still a problem. China doesn't want the NBA right now. They're not showing NBA games. They weren't showing them before the coronavirus. They're not going to this summer. They're still miffed over a little tweet from Daryl Morey.
Then why did LeBron James backpedal from his comments that he had made? The face of the league backpedaled. So I asked because I wonder
in February of this year, Adam Silver talked about how it was a big economic hit that the NBA was still undergoing by way of what happened in China last summer, And the deals that got canceled, they weren't showing their games for this past season. So, no, I can say with full confidence, I do not believe that China is running the NBA.
Okay.
There's a big financial incentive for the NBA to be in China. But that from the events of this last year, no. Come on. By the way, I looked it up. Atlanta is the number 10 media market in America. That is not a small market.
Number 10.
Number 10.
Wait, in what?
Don't tell me they're a small market
wait.
team.
In what kind of market you said?
Media market.
So wait, what does that define as?
That's a designated area where there's commerce and television and communications that happen within that hub of an area. We have a broadcast station. How many people does it reach?
But that's not NBA market. That's media market. What?
There's nothing else in Georgia.
What do you mean there's nothing else?
For the NBA?
Sure. But the NBA market value of the Atlanta Hawks cannot be big.
That's on them.
So wait, okay, well in that case,
Denver's number 17. Just good for some can't speak. Perspective. Salt Lake City is number 30.
Wow. Really? Huh.
San Antonio's 31.
Media. It's all Salt Lake's fault.
Oklahoma City is 45. See, those in my mind, those are small market teams. Don't get on some little soapbox all of a sudden and tell me that Detroit and Atlanta are small market teams.
Detroit's a small market team.
They're not small market teams. Those are just young teams that want to be able to still play games to develop their young talent. It's not about being what market you're in.
No, hold on. Okay, Atlanta, I can maybe jump on the same train as you. Detroit, nuh-uh. Detroit is not a large market.
Okay, what number?
Because here's
where would you put them? Where would you put them above Salt Lake City? Below Salt Lake City?
Oh, below Salt Lake City. Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm going to blow your mind. Number 14.
See that? Okay.
They are the number 14 media market in the country.
Okay, but again, that's media market.
That represents a total size of audience, a pool of people they can draw from.
For NBA basketball?
Yes. There's nothing else in the area.
Yeah, Detroit Lions?
I'm talking
Detroit
about
Tigers?
NBA.
Yeah,
if I'm looking at Los Angeles,
sorry.
it's fractured by two teams. If I'm looking at New York, it's divided by two teams.
Okay, but here's the thing: is I think there is a difference between media market and NBA market, and I think NBA market is more correct value of what teams are big and what teams aren't. NBA market is included in revenue, primetime games, all that kind of stuff. So, for example, LA is a big market team. Clippers and Lakers. I would even put Portland in there. I'd put the Mavericks in there. I'd put the Rockets in there. I'd put the Magic in there.
Portland is number 22. But I get it. I get what you're saying, though. Like in Portland, there aren't a lot of other things going on. So the Portland Trailblazers are elevated in the dialogue and the conversation and the sponsorships, whereas opposed to Atlanta, yes, there may not be any other NBA teams in any near vicinity, but there's a lot of saturation for a lot of other sports. And I think that's where you're coming from, that there's other things that are going on that may compete for those sponsorship dollars.
I know. I'm saying the value of the franchise itself from an NBA standpoint. So, for example, again, attendance, revenue, sales from outside of the state, if you want to go that route, anything linked to the NBA.
Well, how much of that is on the team ownership and how they handle their business and how they draft and how they compete?
Like revenue and ticket stuff, it's... I mean, if you're drafting what? I see what you're saying, but I still feel like ticket revenue and jerseys bought, and all that kind of stuff is what makes you a mid, small, or a large market team, not the media. With all due respect to our jobs.
Well, I'm not saying it from a media perspective how much, talk radio guys may talk about it. I'm talking, but when I talk about a media market, how many potential people, what is the population of that area? When you look at a media market, it's if you put a TV station on the air, a radio station on the air, how far does that signal reach? How many people live underneath that signal umbrella?
So would we? Okay, I get you there.
So
okay,
based on,
I see what you're
really,
saying.
it's based on population, as defined by population. So Oklahoma City is a small market. They're ranked 45th. New Orleans is a small market. They're ranked
Utah
50th.
is a small market.
So it's classified as Salt Lake City, but they come in at number 30.
Okay. Huh. So what are the top 9? You gave me number 10. What's the top 9?
And New York's number 1.
Okay.
Los Angeles is number 2. Chicago's number 3. Of course, this is according to newsgeneration.com. I've seen Houston ranked up there within 3 or 4 because this actually has Philadelphia number 4, Dallas 5, Washington, D.C. Metro is number 6, and Houston number 7. I believe Houston's higher than that. But then they have San Francisco number 8, Boston number 9. And then Atlanta is your
so
rounds out your
Boston's
top
not
10.
higher? That's crazy. Really? With the meat, man. See, I see that in the top 5.
Yeah, it's based on population. But getting back to the original point here,
Yeah, sorry, circle of life here.
I'm not going to call them small market teams. I refuse to call Detroit and Atlanta small market teams. But according to those teams that are going to be missing out on this 22 game or 22 teams, they're kind of upset because they have younger guys they still want to play and develop, and they haven't had a chance to play them or develop them since mid-March. And if they're not able to participate in this thing this summer, and the NBA season doesn't start until Christmas, it's like 9 months
off, yeah,
of not having opportunities to develop your young core. So I get Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland; those guys would be upset. They'd want to have some way of playing games. But at the same time, you also have players and some administrative people that are also talking to Adam Silver saying, what's the point?
Yeah. Here is Woj on the basketball concern standpoint of this 22-team format and coming back to play.
In some of these marketplaces, like in Atlanta or in Detroit, where you want to stay in the consciousness of your market, you got to be able to sell tickets. You've got to be able to sell sponsorships. I think there's business and basketball concerns about disappearing for this long.
Ajay, I wonder, when this plan is revealed later this week, if it will have some contingencies, maybe that's the right word, that if certain areas in the country open up to a degree where you can play games in home arenas, will they stop doing this in Orlando and then shift? If they're going to still be playing games until October, is there some point in all of this that they may say, we're going to abandon this isolated place in Orlando and we're going to go back to our home arenas for these to resume the playoffs? Could that be possible?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or do they say, you know what, we got to be committed to this, we're sticking with this, it's going to keep it equal?
Now, see, that's what I could see. I could see them saying, look, we're not going to just switch hands in the middle of a deck. We can't. Where we're at is where we're at, and we're sticking to it. But I think it would be beneficial, and I think it would be more intriguing, especially for the Seas themselves, if they were to move them to, would you call it, I guess, a home site for the playoff, right? Is that what you're saying? For the playoffs?
What if it's not in the first round, but what if things open up to a degree around the country that, hey, second round, conference finals, things are okay now. We can play games in our home arenas, and maybe we can even allow some fans to be in the stands.
Yeah, I still think they would have to stick with what they with their guns of what they're doing. We have to. If we said this is the plan, this is where we're going to play. This is where we commit to play,
and we're going to do it all the way through, regardless of how things might change.
And there'd probably be a financial contract of some sort from NBA to Florida. Saying, hey, this is what you're going to do. We're going to pay you one way or another. Whoever's paying who, there's got to be some kind of a contract there.
Yeah, you're probably right.
To say this is what's going to happen. We're playing all our games here. My question: how we haven't heard though yet if it's a 7-7-7 all the way through, right? For playoffs.
It has to be. If they're going to be playing games until October, it has to be a commitment to a best of 7 series all the way through. And that just doesn't make sense.
Crazy,
to me.
huh? Yeah, that just doesn't make sense.
Because it's going to throw off next season.
Well, and next season's already thrown off though.
It is, but you have an opportunity to not be as bad. If they went to a best of 5s for the first couple of rounds and just stuck to best of 7s for the conference championships and the NBA championships, you could shave off a couple of weeks. Could be done by the end of September. I just think it gives them a little more time for guys to recover, to do free agency, to do mini camps, to figure out your draft, to figure out your young guys, the teams that didn't get to participate. Do they get some kind of a summer league?
See, that's another great question from you. Do we have a summer league or a fall league or just some kind of a time for these guys to prep? And then what does your preseason look like? Or do you just say, we're going to start regular season games on December 25th, and we're going to shorten the season by X amount of games to make sure that we catch up to June of next year so that we're back on track?
I think you have to have preseason games. Just that's your way to work in some of your new guys, your younger guys, to see who's going to be able to make it, who's going to be on your roster, who you're going to send down to the G League. I don't know. It's all very strange. We're obviously going to get more details on Thursday, I believe, is when it's supposed to be ratified.
Yeah, that's what I've read as well. Thursday, they should have a decision on exactly what the plan is going to be. Now, according to Woj, the NBA has been advancing on a plan that would include regular season and play-in and playoff games for 16 teams currently holding playoff positions and 6 more teams within the 6 games of the 8th seed in each conference.
Right, so that would be...
But they still split the conferences in the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Washington, Orlando, and Brooklyn basically fighting for who gets to go to the playoffs. Brooklyn's currently 7, Orlando 8, Washington just on the outside. And then in the West, you've got, really the fight will be between Memphis, who's currently 8th, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix.
Okay.
So the fight in the West will be really intriguing and interesting. And then let's not forget the position. Well, it doesn't really matter. Home court doesn't matter. I'm going to say, but potential playoff matchups do. But the 3 through 6 is also in flux with the standings. 2.5 games separate Denver, Utah, Oklahoma City, and Houston. So playoff positioning, who makes it, who doesn't, there's still a lot that could be determined with just a couple of games that they play before they get into the playoffs.
All right, we're going to take a break. Coming back, we'll get you to more sporting news, including MLB baseball. They're on an absolute collision for a huge explosion that could even affect next season. We're not just talking about this season. We're talking about next season as well. Where do they go from here? What is the solution, or is there a solution at this point? If you want to join into the show, you can by texting in at 435-339-0321. Or call in at 435-752-1069. It's Eric Frandsen, the guy who had a dream about Ajay Salvesen, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press, 106 on FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. You know what's funny is, this isn't funny. Well, it kind of is. So,
okay,
I'm in the canyon. We're stuck, right, in traffic. And some guy's like, hey, aren't you like on a radio show? I'm like, yeah, I'm on the Full Court Press. Dude, that starts in like 40 minutes. How are you going to get there? Oh, what do you think, bro? God, we're sitting in traffic.
Teleport.
I ain't going to make it. He's like, so like, does he just do it on his own? I don't know. Maybe. And then as I sat there, I thought about it. I feel bad. Like, I hadn't even called you or texted you or nothing. So then I spin my car around, head back the other way, get out of the canyon, call you. Not going to make it. And then my boss from Bear Lake, he saw me today, and he goes, so you didn't do your show at the studio, huh? Nope. He must have been listening in. He's like, did you get stuck in traffic? Yes, I got. I mean, I think I had to explain it to everybody today. It was just annoying. Hey, Eric,
some things you just can't plan for.
Amen. I like being tied to a mailbox. Eric, we, as messy as sports has been, I feel like the MLB is a volcano awaiting to erupt. From MLB versus players because of one presidential flashcard in the middle that they're all fighting for. This is incredulous.
This really surprises me. The NHL was able to figure something out. The NBA was able to figure something out. What's interesting about both of those leagues is that they were in pretty regular communication with their players and their unions about how do we move forward, how do we salvage what we still need to finish. Major League Baseball has been completely opposite. They've entrenched on their respective sides, saying, we're going to come up with our proposal, we're going to air it out in the media, and then you're going to come out with your proposal, you're going to air it out in the media. And this gap has been widening in Major League Baseball for some time. Now, they haven't had a real labor dispute for 20 years, 25 years. So they've been getting along pretty well, but we have seen an undercurrent of frustration in Major League Baseball the last couple of seasons regarding contracts and how late teams sign free agents and how that affects the free agent market and how much guys are getting paid. We see the headlines with the big contracts signed by Bryce Harper and Mike Trout, but the vast majority of guys are not really seeing any increases at all. In fact, there's some degree of attrition that's happening. And so there's been some underlying frustrations going on, and all of a sudden, this is just, like you said, it exploded, and the owners are saying, look, we'll resume play if we play 82 games. The players come back and say, well, if it's based on games played, let's do 114 games, because that, in their mind, thinking it's more games played, more opportunities for the owners to make money. Then the owners counter and say, well, if we can't have fans in the stands, it's just going to cost us more money. So we have to pay you more. We have to pay you to play more games. It doesn't make sense. So how about we do 50 games? So instead of coming to an agreement somewhere in the middle, owners took a few steps back, even further. So it's been really messy, but both sides have kind of presented something, and they're presenting their cases. And we heard this yesterday, that this is an important week for Major League Baseball. They've got to get this figured out. There's still a chance for Major League Baseball to be the first league, no disrespect to NASCAR, but the first league to really get going. And they could do that by the 4th of July, which, man, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, how about that?
But they've got to come together. They got to, for the good of the game, the squabbling over the millionaires and the billionaires are squabbling over millions of dollars. And look, let's just figure out a way to get this season figured out, and then in the off season, figure out the new collective bargaining agreement.
Now, Jeff Passan, yesterday, you reported this, Eric, that at the point in time where they're unable to reach a return-to-play agreement, the MLB had discussed playing a shorter schedule in which it would pay members of the MLB Players Association their full prorated salaries, but with a minor cut. Now, the MLB didn't intend to propose this to the players. The possibility of implementing a schedule, according to Passan, was a schedule of around 50 games that would start in July and was considered by the league as a last resort in the event that the parties can't come to a deal. Then, today, Cubs owner Tom Rickett just blew the roof off the car, whatever.
Blew the roof off the door.
It's been a long 2 days and I haven't got a lot of sleep. Leave me alone. Blew the ivy off the walls. There you go. You like that?
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Anyways, he said that the perception of that baseball teams are cash cows, meaning that they take all the revenue for themselves, he calls it incredulously wrong. He says that they're mostly, the revenue itself is put right back into the team, saying, quote, here's something that I hope baseball fans understand. Most baseball owners don't take the money out of their team. They raise all the revenue they can from tickets and media rights, and they take out their expenses, and they give all the money left to their GM to spend. End quote. You know a player's going to come out and say that's absolutely baloney.
Yeah, it's not entirely true. I mean, the Cubs themselves have done a lot of debt financing to do some facility upgrades, to purchase properties around the stadium. So there are other things that are going on. Granted, that's all related to the fact about trying to provide an experience and provide ticket sales to raise revenue to be able to offer bigger contracts to its players, because there's no salary cap in Major League Baseball.
So let's start here. From Jeff Passan, again, of ESPN. This is the MLB sticking points of players and proposals.
It is a 114-game proposal by the Major League Baseball Players Association. Season would start on June 30th, end on October 31st. I think the most important point here, though, is not the size of the season, which is up for negotiation, but a caveat that they put in there about if there is no postseason this year, then they are willing to defer $100 million in salary for players making $10 million or more in the season.
And I think that's an interesting caveat, because they're recognizing, look, there could be a second wave. There could be something that causes issues, that stirs things up again in the fall, that may prevent us from playing. And so they're saying, look, we're willing, any player that's earning $10 million or more, we'll defer some of that, because that could be a big hit on teams to still be committed to having to pay those salaries. So there are some things that both sides are conceding. They just got to still figure it out. They're close. They just got to get together on this.
So what's the likelihood of that proposal leading to a compromise?
MLB is going to reject this proposal. It's just an inevitability, like it was inevitable that the players rejected MLB's proposal on Tuesday that included the pretty drastic pay cuts for players up and down. But the issue is going to be on the owner side. Now, there is a group of owners. It's a small group at this point, but there's a group that has been fairly vocal about there not being a 2020 season and what the benefits would be to that. And the question is this proposal going to give them more ammunition, perhaps, going forward and being able to bring some others onto their side? Or are they going to see this from the players as an olive branch, saying, hey, let's find somewhere to meet in the middle?
So that's a great point. I feel like the owners kind of have the leverage here, because they could say, you know what, forget it. Let's not have a season. The MLB saying, you know what, we're done with this. We're done fighting with you guys. We're going to just cancel the season. We're already in June. We're about to hit July with no chance of playing in June. And most likely, the way things are going, probably not even in July, because you still need that 4-week training or whatever it is. I mean, you're looking at August. At this point, you just say, axe it. We'll come back next March and be ready to go. Hopefully. Depending if we can get our crap together on both sides. Is that a realistic possibility in your mind that we do not have baseball even though we're in June?
Yes, I think it is. And I think it will be really sad and unfortunate, because it'll be squabbling over money. And I get it. That's got to be a big part of the game. It's a business. People need to get paid. But if you're getting paid $5 million and normally you should earn $7 million, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy. If you have an opportunity to still play the game of baseball.
Eric, I got to apologize to you a lot. I've been playing your clips from yesterday. Sorry. You Roll your eyes.
Like, some of these sound a little familiar, but not a lot has totally changed. But there are some updated details that are kind of similar to some of the stuff that we heard yesterday.
The players have been stubborn. The owners have been stubborn. Everybody's been stubborn here. So this is the thing I think that ultimately will get them moving. Now, will it get them moving in the right direction? That is what remains to be seen.
Well, that wasn't really breaking news there, Jeff, but thanks, buddy. No crap.
Well, it's just that hopefully now that both sides have kind of laid out where they're at, and both sides seem to be kind of detailing some of their concerns, then they can maybe come together. But if they're going to still try to play this out in the media, it's not going to get done. Yeah. We're not going to have a Major League Baseball season, and it won't have anything to do with the current state of coronavirus.
Here is Doug Glanville on the MLB, just the importance of getting him on the field now.
You have to look at the bigger win down the road once you get past 2020 and look towards 21. And they both need to kind of get in that vision that they'll have another opportunity to get at this next season, next year. It's really important for multiple reasons why they need to get on the field now.
Is it really that important?
Yeah, I think it is.
But I mean,
the last time there was a total shutdown of Major League Baseball, it took it years to come back. And it was only through, which now looking back on it, an era that had a questionable era about it as it is with the steroids, with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Their home run race thrust baseball back into America's consciousness. And it wasn't until then that it really took off. But here's something to be concerned about, Ajay. And I get where the players would be really concerned about a 50-game season. What if, because based on how salaries are put together, what if in that season you go through a hitting slump and in only 50 games you average below 200? What if you average 150? What if you normally average 250, 285? What if somebody gets hot and through 50 games, their average is 400? Suddenly, do they get some crazy deal? Because, man, look at that batting average. Over 162 games, it pretty well evens itself out, the type of player you really are. But we know players can get hot, players can get cold. If it's only 50 games, it's going to look abnormal one way or the other. And that could really affect what your potential salary is, or your arbitration and free agency could look like in the following year. So I get the concern by players of playing too few games. I also understand the owners saying, if we're going to play a lot of games, but we can't have fans in the stands, it's more expensive for us to play these games than to not play these games. So there's got to be a middle ground. And to me, the 82-game season is enough of a season. It's still opportunities to play games for sponsorships, for TV, for radio.
Is it enough
and
revenue,
maybe even
though?
holding out hope that at some point you can allow some degree of fans to come into your arena for concessions and ticket sales.
Is 82 games enough for revenue? If you don't have, and remember,
not totally, but it's something.
How much do you think, percentage-wise, does it count with fans in the stands? How much is that? Is that 90% revenue?
No, I think they said it was almost 50%.
Okay. But it's still a big chunk. All right. Well, we're going to take a break.
82 games, that's almost half a season.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's better than something.
And again, but 82 games. And so wait, are we still saying 82 games mid-July? Maybe late. Actually, no, it'd be late July.
You could start as early as July 4th. If they get this deal figured out this week, they could start at the end of June, early July. And throw in extra double headers, which the players have said they would agree to do.
And that's fine. They've done it before.
And you could finish the season on a somewhat regular schedule.
All right. Hey, by the way, I got a text from 0549. Breaking news. ESPN, Disney, Nike, and NBA announced, trust us, we will be playing that in the happiest place in the world with Mickey and Minnie cheering them on. Nobody cares. Because everybody wants Bugs, man. Bugs is the baller. Hey, speaking of baseball really quickly, high school baseball has been taking place in summer ball. They've got some Legion ball going on.
Yeah, I heard lacrosse picked up. They had a little tournament over the weekend.
So, and then Legion's got, I guess this Valley's got, like, the Logan Grizzlies are hosting this Legion tournament of some sort. I don't know if it's just at their field solely, but to see baseball just back in the Valley is really, like Northern Utah League baseball or high school baseball has been pretty cool to see. The fact that we have baseball just in the Valley, it's...
Went for a bike ride last night. My wife and one of my boys went by. There's a baseball complex not far from where we live.
Okay.
Cruised past there. Cars everywhere. Games going on. Lights are on. It's like, okay. I don't know if everybody's doing the social distancing or wearing masks, but it's fun to have baseball back again.
Yeah, it is good. By the way, Green Canyon yesterday over Skyview, 23-3.
Whoa!
Green Canyon beat Mountain Crest 15-4 and then stomped Logan too.
Holy cow!
So a team that was just like a starting league or a starting school 2 years ago, 2 years ago, it's all blur, is now, I mean, with one of the best coaches probably in the region, in Ryan Eborn, now has got a team. I know it's just summer ball, but it's a big say when that guy's got his team rolling the way he does. For Green Canyon. So, again, summer ball's starting, which is nice to be able to see some baseball out on the fields, especially on good summer nights.
Hey, coming up next here on the Full Court Press, really interesting comments from Herm Edwards. He's now the head football coach at Arizona State. Really interesting perspective that he's going to share with us coming up next on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay, Salvesen, 106 on FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, and 106onthefan.com. We are out of breaks. We're running out of time. 5 minutes left here in the show. Thanks for joining us however you are and wherever you are doing so from. Hey, a lot of coaches have been speaking out about the George Floyd situation, the protest. I saw a really cool tweet from you. What was it called? Blackout Tuesday as part of it. I thought that was pretty cool what you put out. But Herm Edwards of Arizona State, he also came out and talked.
Yeah, there's been some great thoughts that have been shared. Very personal, very emotional, raw stuff from players, coaches, administrators, people who have been personally affected. But what I appreciate the most is, I don't mean to say one is better than another, but what I really appreciate is those that share perspective, but also some thoughts and maybe hope for the future and how to move forward through all of this, rather than just sharing raw emotions, but also maybe there's something we can do. Let's harness this for positive change. And Herm Edwards talked a little bit about that earlier today. The head football coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Some of the texts I get from them, they say, "Coach, what should we do?" And I said, "Hey, look, you just got to look at it from the perspective of you guys get to change this country. You have an opportunity to do this for your kids. Because here's the thing about, protesting and progress. It doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. It's going to benefit their kids. And that's what you got to look at. It's not going to happen. They're going to turn light switch on. We're going to change all this stuff. No, it's going to take time for it to change. But I think because of the emotion we have right now as a country, people are starting to have this conversation. And you got to have this conversation, to be quite honest, at the supper table with your kids, if you have young kids, and tell them this is not right. America's better than this. Guys, this is unbelievable to watch. I mean, we got the National Guard. This is crazy. This is like some third world country. This is America. We're way better than this.
Eric?
I love that the way he's responding to his players. And I've heard this from several other coaches over the last few days, is that these are people who have opportunities to be leaders that are looked to by maybe not necessarily the community at large, but certainly by their teams. And to hear what they're sharing with them, what they're hearing from their players, and what they're sharing back with them, these are inspiring people. And I really appreciate what Herm Edwards had to say, is that, look, this may not affect what's going on today. I mean, its effect may not be immediate, but you have a chance to make a difference for the future. And I appreciate that. And I think that's absolutely correct and true. And I thought that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he was on Dan Patrick earlier today, and he had some great comments about that as well. So I think that's got to be the message. While we may not, some of us have experienced these things personally, we can at least try to understand and then try to make things different in the future.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you can always find a way to have a solution by doing your part. And I think the first part is understanding, putting yourself in their shoes, right? If we can do that on both sides, and I'm on both sides of the bridge.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's where they stand and where they stand. And I'm not really making sense here, but if you can just fit yourself into their shoes, I think we'll have a better understanding of where people stand in their life and what the problems are, what the challenges are on their end, and how we can be a part of the solution.
Well, I think that's what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was talking about earlier this morning, is that people need to we need to have more empathy, recognize people as human beings, not as objects or anyone that's inferior. I think if we can look at each other as human beings going through this life, trying to make sense of it for ourselves and for our families, that can make a big difference. And
it's possible. It is definitely possible to make it happen. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of patience. It's going to take a ton of communication, the proper communication, voicing out your displeasure or your concerns in a peaceful and a respectful way. Easier said than done right now when there's as many protests as there is, and the violence that has been just, invaded the protest in itself, which is really unfortunate, but it's definitely possible.
Right. It's okay to protest the violence, the looting. That's not okay because it takes away. It just shifts the message and the attention away from the real message and the real thing that should be discussed. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. If you're a smart baseball fan, you probably have ignored all the headlines about the battles between the union and the league. They're arguing over money as they try to put together some sort of season. Now, the differences in the last two proposals have to make you laugh. The players want 114 games. The owners reportedly want about 50. That's a big difference. If they do go closer to 50, get ready for the debate about the legitimacy of the season. The NBA has already played about 65 out of 82 games, and some people say that's not enough. Imagine 50 out of 162. Of course, they could settle somewhere in the middle, say around 82. I just want to watch baseball, and I know they're trying their hardest to make it safe, but numbers sometimes mean a little more in baseball. We like to look at stats and evaluate guys. That will be tough to do with just 50 games. Although I think even skeptical baseball fans can agree any number of games is better than zero. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.